Jedi Man 40 in the chat saying FF14 is becoming boring. Becoming? Really? Becoming. All right, let's go back to our phone lines and talk to Tash Bloodcaster of Sergeant Tannis. What's going on, Tash?
Hey, what's happening, guys?
Thanks for calling Limit Break Radio. What's up?
Hey, so I wanted to call in because I could be wrong about this, but a while ago they said that it takes them about a year or so in advance for them to make content, or they're making content in a year in advance?
There was once a like a Q&A or something like that where I think they were specifically someone was asking about the Garo crossover, and someone had said that planning for the Garo crossover armor design, that it took a year's worth of designing the armor to be able to implement it, or something along those lines.
Okay, because I thought there was also a different one where they mentioned just standard content also was made like a year in advance or whatever.
Oh, very possible. I mean, I don't see any reason why standard content would be any shorter or longer than
probably
crossover content. Like, it's still just content.
This was also like when people were like, why don't we have an FF15 crossover to go with the FF15 launch like we did with 13, which was, in itself not that great of a game. And they're like, oh, but it takes so long to implement, and if we want to do it at launch, we don't understand how the characters are, and we want to do the characters justice, so we're not even gonna think about it. Because they just wouldn't be able to develop it that far ahead of time without knowing the game,
right?
Because it would take that long to implement, and I guess people wouldn't, even though 15 has had so much DLC they could advertise. No, it doesn't matter. Let's just keep shilling out Lightning because we care about her.
Hold on. Earlier on, didn't we once have a news article to where there was going to be FF15 crossover with Tomb Raider?
See, 15 is doing crossovers with everything but 14.
Yeah. I mean, they did one with Assassin's Creed.
And the Assassin's Creed festival in the 15 was actually really fun. There was a lot of fun mini games and things to do in the game.
I don't believe
they've had some really stupid crossovers where they just have really ugly outfits, like the Sims outfits. But the Assassin's Creed crossover was really cool, and I'm sure that if there's a Tomb Raider one, that one's also going to be really cool. So I just still don't see why we don't have a 14 one.
But doesn't it seem insane that there hasn't been a crossover between 15 and 14? That seems...
It does, especially when we've had the 13 crossover 3 times.
Yeah, exactly.
And nobody cares about 13 because that game was bad. So,
I mean, I think at least part of the problem is that you can upscale Lightning's character model, but maybe downscaling from 15's engine is a little bit more difficult. I don't know.
I feel like they could easily build the characters in the engine, though. But I guess that would take a whole year of development time.
Darn.
I don't know.
Anyway, Tash, what?
Yeah. So the point that I was getting to is, I have a feeling that the entire expansion is already done before FanFest. So everything from patch 4.0 to 4.5, and the reason it's so repetitive is because they're making the content too close together, and it's leeching off of each other.
I mean, maybe, right? I think that Square-Enix has demonstrated that they can shift mid-patch cycle and try to address an issue or a problem, right? That's how we got the 2 versions of Diadem instead of an add-on to Diadem, right? So if something is going very wrong, they do have the ability to adjust. I do think that you're right, that when they announced Stormblood, that they had all of this content blueprinted and kind of planned out. And this is why I'm looking at 5.0 and beyond with such a critical eye. Because you could say, there's an argument out there that could say, while they were halfway through Heavensward and starting to plan Stormblood, they couldn't see the problems that we were talking about as the veteran community sitting here and going, okay, what's next? What are you going to give us that's new? Right now that we're clearly past that hump, and it's pretty undeniable that for a business tactic, Square Enix has to switch from trying to get people in the door to retaining the people that they've already got in or trying to bring some back.
But are they?
The only way that they do that is by changing the focus of the content. They have not done it yet all the way through Stormblood. Holding out hope that they're going to do that in 5.0 moving forward is, I think, foolish. However, that is the one thing that they could do to right the ship.
Don't Trust the Owls in the chat, which again, great screen name, says, wasn't the whole point of SE's copy and paste style that we would get more content as a result of an easier dev cycle?
Yes.
If they're going to give us the same content over and over, they could at least give us the same amount as the 2.0 patches.
And this is another one of my huge problems with the way that Square Enix talks about its content versus the way that it delivers its content. Because there is a disconnect between this development team, what they think they're accomplishing, versus how much is actually felt by the community once we get our hands on it.
Which is, again, evidenced by the fact that we just had this huge thing of patch notes. But out of all of that stuff, the only thing that's going to affect the majority of people is MSQ raid battles. That's it.
Oh, and new dungeons.
Yeah.
And you're right. Like, you're totally right. So the question is whether the dev team is humble enough and attentive enough to realize...
Attentive is the key word.
...that there is a problem. Right? They can lie to themselves and go, we've got 14 million players that have tried this. You know, we can try to make that number 25 million by next year, because that's what we're talking about. The number of people that have ever tried the game ever. And we're at 14 million by Square Enix's own estimation. How many more people do you think you can try to get in the door and try your game?
Yeah, no.
If you think 25 million people in the entirety of FF14's history trying the game is feasible, then go ahead and try to get more people in the door.
It's all they're going to be able to do. You know, you talk about what they could do, probably won't, to right the ship in 5.0. But when we look at what they're delivering to us and the sheer size of the patch notes, despite how much there is there for us to do, I do believe that the development team is actually putting in a lot of work.
Oh, no, I do think that they're putting in work. They're putting it into the wrong areas of the game, because we get
just the wrong
QOL updates.
Not even just the wrong areas. I honestly think that behind the scenes, just the way they develop is so obtuse and so obtrusive, right, that it lends itself to not being able to develop as much. That's why I think that despite doing the copy and paste, they still decided to prune down on how much content they were giving us, is because the way that they do it just isn't conducive to a good work environment.
I don't know that that's true. I think that that's taking a leap in logic.
We also know they're understaffed in some capacity in some places.
With 3 times the budget, and
you can't keep bringing that up.
Oh no! Well, but that's the thing. Then they can't keep using that as a selling point for their fucking game. If you don't want me to bring it up, don't mention how much you're being paid. Period.
Yeah.
Don't mention how much money is flowing through or underneath the game, because that's gonna temper a set of expectations on our part as the audience. Now, here's what I think. If they want to go the direction of trying to get more people under the tent, which they've been doing for 2 expansions now, then the move that they have to make at 5.0 is free to play. Period.
Or at least some type of free-to-play model.
Period. That's it. That's the only shot that you have, is making your game free to play.
Yep.
Then you could get to that 25, 30 million players who have ever tried FF14. Okay? But that doesn't solve the ultimate problem. You just put a Band-Aid on it for another year. And you go, oh, yeah, there's 30 million players playing this bitch now. And then people log in and go, yeah, no, that's not true. But, you know, in terms of a selling point, Square Enix could go that route. if they want to support their veterans, if they want to try to grow the people who are already under the tent and bring some of those people back, then what their main selling points for this next expansion are going to be content-based. They're going to be what types of activities are we going to be doing in this next expansion. That's going to be a dead ringer for which direction Square Enix as a company is going with this intellectual property. And some of us may not like that answer.
So following the logic of the content's already made so far in advance.
Yes.
I'm going with the hope that budget that they keep toting around that people don't want us to talk about never actually got put into Stormblood, that it got put into 5.0.
that is wishful thinking, my friend. No, I think the reality of this was that, the dev team for FF14 worked ridiculously hard throughout A Realm Reborn and worked pretty hard through Heaven's Word. And I think that there were members of the dev team that took a big ass payout. That's what I think. I
also think, because if you remember, we had big server updates as well. That probably took a very big chunk of that as well.
That's right. I forgot. We did get the European data center in there as well. So that may have taken up a fairly sizable portion of the budget. To me, I think that Square Enix is at a crossroads here. And if, something's got to give, right? Like, it's either got to be the subscription or it's got to be the content. One of the two things.
How can the content give even more?
Well, no. And it's got to break in the other way. Where they realize that there's a problem and now they're into correction mode. Because they can correct an ailing game. We know that. They've done that.
They've done it before.
They've done that. But the question is that can they remove themselves enough from the content that they've designed to do an objective analysis on the way that the community is using it? I don't know that they can, because it sounds like, to me, every time someone brings up the fact that the content just isn't worth doing, they don't have a good answer. They've never had a good answer for that.
No.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, every time that question is asked in an interview, there's some kind of deflection or there's some kind of denial that there's even a problem. And we have said on this show for too long and identified the problem too plainly to say that denying that there's a problem holds any kind of validity. So they're just kicking the can down the road.
That's what's happening, because they're looking at the new players, all the players who wanted to go to FanFest, who sold out the tickets and caused a big ruckus, all these new players who are playing and loving the game, and they're looking at this, and literally their response was, wow, we can't believe so many people wanted to come to FanFest. That's so cool.
But that's PR spin. Guys. That's PR spin.
That was, I know, but that was their answer. It was like, wow, so many people love our game. That's so cool. Great. Thanks, guys. I think that's where their mentality is. They see so many people love their game. They're in denial about the people that are critical of it.
It's not just that, Nika. They know, because as Nero has pointed out, even if they don't have something PR-y like that to flash in front of our face, they give the Yoshi P answer. Remember when he was like, oh, well, if that's the case, you should just go and play other games.
Yeah.
Your game doesn't have enough content. We'll go play other games then.
That is the shittiest response.
I'm still salty about that response, and that was years ago.
Yeah.
At this point.
I think as a player who pays $12 to $14 for this game every month, that you have every right to feel salty about that still. You have every right, because what he's saying is, hey, don't question my job. Go do something else. No, make your game good enough to want to hold my attention for longer than 2.5 hours every day that I log in.
If I'm paying a monthly sub, I should be getting a monthly injection. I should feel like each month is worth playing. If you're telling me to go play another game, you need to know that along with that comes me taking my sub.
And here's the thing. Right. And here's the thing is that a ton of people have been critical towards me because I pay the Elder Scrolls Online Plus subscription.
So do I. I'm not even playing it. I'm still paying.
And the thing is, though, is that you actually get something in the game out of doing that.
Oh, they're just so good.
Let's think about this.
There's also a free way to play Elder Scrolls.
Right. Yes, there is. But there is a tangible little benefit from staying subscribed to that subscription model. You actually are given currency that you can use in the shop every single month that you're subscribed.
Station type of shop?
Yeah.
Oh, no. It's actually better. It's better than the Mog Station.
But to draw the parallel,
yes.
that's a fair parallel to draw, right? So they give you free in-game currency to use inside of the cash shop every single month. So you go in my head, I'm not even paying a sub. That sub fee is getting converted into digital bucks every month that I can then spend in their shop. I love that. I'm getting something out of that. Compare that to FF14, where the subscription, all it does is it gets you into the fucking game. That's it.
Yeah, there was someone, wow, pretty funny parallel. Like literally yesterday, someone in the novice chat was like, so what are the benefits to paying the subscription to this game? And everyone's like, what do you mean?
You get to play.
They're like, you get to play it.
You get access to it.
You guys are like, you don't get anything extra for doing it. They're like, no, you just get to play.
You used to get veteran rewards. You used to get veteran rewards, but you don't even get that shit no more.
Nope. And I know we've drawn so many parallels or anti-parallels to 11, and I don't want 11 back, but when I look at it, I was paying the same price for 11 as we pay for 14. And I feel like there was so much more to do in 11. I felt like if I logged out of 11 and played another game, I would fall behind. I would lose content. I would, not get something in the game if I didn't play it. Whereas in this game, we're encouraged to play another game. Yep. And that is sad. Now, again, I don't want the same content as 11 because there was a lot wrong with it. But I feel like there are so many ways to entice a player to feel like you should be playing this game from a business standpoint than what they're doing. And it really saddens my heart and my entire being to not want to play this game every day.
Yeah. Don't Trust the Owls came up with a great point in our chat room saying, Yoshi P's play another game is the equivalent of buying something in a store and the shopkeeper telling you, we have your money now, fuck off somewhere else. Kinda.
Yeah.
I mean, that is exactly how it feels because, as players, when we sit here and go, hey, there's not enough for us to do, that can feel like an entitled argument. But really what we're saying is, hey, we want to still feel good about giving you our money every month. And I want to make sure that if I'm spending money on this product every month, that I'm getting something out of it for return. I'm not just supporting it abstractly because I support the idea of having chocobos and Moogles in an MMO, right? Like that's not just something that is a wellspring inside my heart. I just want to see chocobos in an MMO. No, I want this MMO to be good. And if I'm paying you my fucking money every month to be able to access it, to find out if it's good or not, I have an increased expectation on your part that it better be fucking better than the average MMO that I can get out there and play for free. And the fact is, it isn't. And that may be a cruel fact of the way that the MMO genre has developed over time. But the fact that there are free alternatives to FF14 that are as good as FF14, that are as satisfying for as long as FF14 remains satisfying to a new player, then that tells me, why does anyone pick up this game in the first place? It's because you have some kind of an emotional attachment to Final Fantasy. And at some point, that emotional attachment runs out. At 14 million, maybe that's it. At 28 million, who knows? At 30 million, we don't really know. But does Square Enix want to find that out? Or do they want to properly build an MMO that supports its veteran player base with things that they actually are interested in doing? There is a wealth of content in this game that is completely and utterly unused. All of the shit that sits at the 50 cap and the 60 cap is just a waste of content. Why can't any of those pieces of content go back and be repurposed to make them relevant? This has blown my mind for years. Think of how many dungeons sit at the level 50 and the level 60 cap that even as you're fucking leveling, the likelihood of going through the glut of dungeons that sit at those two caps are minuscule. Why not hey, okay, from 50 to 52, this is your one fucking dungeon, and all of the rest of the shit that sits at that glut of that level cap, go and restructure that for current cap.
I'm gonna make you feel real dumb right now because they did repurpose dungeons. You can take your squadron in there.
Fuck off.
Boom.
But still, not even all of them yet. So.
No, not even all of them yet.
Jesus.
Yeah. No. We have someone in the chat here. Who was that? Just said Rail Living Fang. Oh no, not them. But someone called us a slander show. Andra Teslazy.
Yeah.
Lol, this is a slander show sponsored by ESO or something. So tell us what we're saying that's slanderous. Goes on to say, no, this is all opinion. It's people sitting around and viewing everything in a negative. No, you're right. Yes, of course, this is all just
this is an opinion show. We've never been an informational
based.
show. Welcome.
Yes, duh. But that doesn't make it any less true for us. If you have fun with the game, all right, cool. I'm going to assume that you probably started playing in Stormblood, though, or maybe Heaven's Ward. But what we're saying here, yes, is our opinion, but it doesn't make it any less valid.
Doesn't make it any less true either.
And like, there's a difference between slander and criticism. Also,
yep,
like,
there is.
There's a big difference.
Are we getting less content now than we did in 3.0 or 4.0? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, objectively
less.
Yeah.
And then again, when we get something new and innovative like Eureka, and they say it's going to grow and change every time, and then they copy paste and just put some bunnies.
Yep.
I can't say that is enough incentive for me to continue.
Okay, Andra says
doesn't get the job done.
Andra wants to say one positive thing about this game. Okay, I'm going to tell you one positive thing about this game. One of the things about this game that I've always loved, and even though I don't like the story in Stormblood, the fact that from expansion to expansion, the story continues to build on itself has always been one of Final Fantasy XIV's strongest points. And unfortunately, that's something that I think that they lost in Stormblood by downplaying a lot of the relationships that you make with the characters throughout the first two expansions.
Yeah, I'm going to say the world building that they did throughout all of 2.0 and 3.0, the continent of Eorzea is very vibrant and very alive. And I feel like when they went to Stormblood and introduced all of the Doma and the whole other continent, that they started to spread themselves too thin on the world building, and so that portion of the world authored feels way less fleshed out and way less full of rich history the way that Eorzea did.
Yep. And
especially when we know there's so much history with Alamigo, and they just kind of pushed it to the side for the way they decided to develop. And like we talk about, like, the world building is good, but the overworld is very underused, and a lot of that could go hand in hand. But
Carletta also mentioning the music. The music is
the music's
Soken
awesome.
is amazing, and I'm so happy that he is who they found for this. Like, if anyone was going to replace Uematsu as like the MMO music creator,
I also
Soken's the dude.
I also genuinely think that the battle system, like the various iterations we've gotten of the battle system overall for an MMO, the battle system is very well tuned. It is a very finely tuned system, especially when I go to Elder Scrolls Online. That combat is fucking whack. Like, that is just bad combat. I don't particularly like it. There's no synergy that you have with your group. If you're a DPS, you're just trying to rack up numbers, right? Like, you're
also playing what is essentially supposed to be a single player meets MMO experience.
Yeah, it's and for that reason, like, I get something different out of ESO than I get out of FF14, right? Which is, I think, probably actually, to be honest, I get something out of ESO that I don't get out of most MMOs, which is a fundamentally Elder Scrolls experience, which is why I like it, and outside of its MMO aspects, why it keeps me there, right? FF14 doesn't have much outside of its MMO aspects that interests me outside of the combat or trying to make my character progression, stuff like that.
Right. I think it needs the next, like someone also was saying, I think it was Jet was saying, what content would we need? And that kind of thing is like, when we have side quests, make them meaningful, make them help build the world, not just stupid fetch quests. Like, there are ways to put fetch quests in order to build the world that you're doing.
Those are all still just those are all still just band-aids. The biggest problem that this game has is it does not reward people correctly.
It's variety and incentive. Those are the two things I've been saying in the chat for the last few minutes, is variety and incentive. Like, I will even say, like, if we're talking about good things, I actually don't dislike the rating we have in this game. However, it is the only type of end game we have, and so it gets boring and tedious. I think this type, like the battle mechanics, I think they're done very well. I actually really enjoy the fights, and I don't mind the progression of them. I think they're fun. However, I do those 2 days a week. I want something to do on the other 3 days. Like, I need something else, and I don't, every single patch doesn't need to be the same raid, the same 4 bosses in a circle room. Like, update, give me another type of raid to do so I can keep working on Kefka while, you know, doing something else endgame on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Like, there's just not enough variety in the endgame as much as I enjoy it, because after a while, like, I've been doing the same type of raiding since Coil. It's boring after a while. And I just feel like if they had added variety, people wouldn't be bitching about the endgame raids the way they are now. I
agree. Anyway, Tash, thanks for the call, man. We appreciate it.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Yep. Give us a call, Limit Break Radio on Skype, 810-515-8715, limitbreakradio.com/Discord.